echoey. Hello, everyone. I sound so ominous.
Echo, echo, echo. Hi. How's everybody doing?
I need to figure out why it's echoing.
I'm not echoing. I don't hear myself echo. This is just you right now. Hey Jerome, how are you doing? Hey Stephen.
For people watching, let me know. Is this echoing for you?
Maybe it's my phone. Right now, is it echoing?
Yeah, it's not on your end. It's on our end. Uh, is that better?
Nope. I didn't see an ear and feedback at that point.
Uh, Always technical difficulties every single week, and it's a different issue every time.
It's so odd.
Yeah.
We get through it though.
Yeah, I have no idea what's wrong.
I don't hear you echoing now. Can anybody? Does anybody hear the echo on the live stream?
Yeah, they're saying that they can.
Okay.
Improvement? That's good.
Nice. Okay.
Okay. How is that? Nope, still echoing.
There it goes.
It's so frustrating because it's a different issue every single time. I mean, um,
No echo? Echo?
yeah, it's either I keep the volume low
Mm-hmm.
or I have the echo. This is so weird. I'm so sorry for everyone who's watching. If you have any suggestions on how to fix this, let me know because I'm trying to figure this out.
Yeah, I don't use OBS as often as or at all really.
Because it's only saying that the only audio out I have is the microphone. All right. We we pushed forward. Can people hear me? At least? Can you hear Lionel?
Anybody hear me? Is it clear or am I quiet? At least they can see our pretty faces.
Yeah, I know. They can look at me being completely confused.
You'll figure it out. I'm sure. But when you talk, I don't hear the echo. I don't know about live stream.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can.
Lionel is quiet. Yeah. Hello? Yeah,
Yeah.
see?
See.
The moment I put up the volume, it starts echoing like crazy.
The only thing that's different is me with my phone. You sure it's not coming from me?
No, it shouldn't be you. Okay, let's try that now. OBS issues. This is so challenging. I'm gonna Google search about something about OBS echo sound. You can hear us. Okay, well at least that part's a little fixed. Something. Yeah. Okay. You hear sound. It's a little echoey. As long as the feedback isn't terrible, can we move forward? Are people okay with us moving forward like this? It isn't ideal, but we'll try fixing it. And Lionel and I will probably deal with this after the stream. Lionel hasn't said anything. That's why you can't hear from him yet. But, okay. We're good enough. We can move forward. Let's do that. Thank you everyone for joining us and dealing with this technical difficulty. It's been such a pain. I'm really hoping we can fix this. But every week, new issues. It's just the way the world works when it comes to doing live stream. So what are we talking about this week? We're going to be talking about design space and what does it mean to have an open design space, making sure that as you design your game and you grow, you have new ideas for future sets, for future cards. You never run out of ideas. And that's something we're going to be talking about. Oh, we're not getting any sound on YouTube, it looks like. No echo anymore for me. Okay, so it looks like Facebook is working, YouTube's not working. I honestly have no idea what's happening there. But, okay, we'll just keep on pushing forward. All right. So, for everyone who's here, thank you for joining us. And make sure you're letting us know you're here. I know everyone who's joined us so far has let me know, so thank you so much. As for Patreon, thank you. I want to give a huge shout out to our Patreon supporters. Thank you for all your support along the way. So special shout out to Andrew, Gunther, Hill, Steven, Stevo, Nathan, and Will for being our top tier supporters. Thank you to all our Patreon supporters for everything you do. This month's package has been fully delivered. If you haven't got yours yet, or it's in the process, I know for people who are at North of Exile, it's going to take a little bit longer for your package to get there. For everyone else, we're in the process. You should have got yours already. Check your local game store if you're supposed to be picking up your package from there. And then for next month's package, let me switch over to that. I actually have that information up on the screen. So for next month's package, everyone who's part of Patreon is going to be getting those 2 full art Chain Lightning cards. These are going to be absolutely amazing. I got a lot of positive feedback from the full arts for the champions with the borderless cards. And I want to make sure that we continue doing that. So that's going to be a Patreon thing where we start doing more borderless cards as long as people are enjoying them. And then as for the foil, you're going to be getting that foil Kendra. It's kind of suiting that you're getting Chain Lightning and Kendra together because Kendra is the one who's doing Chain Lightning. So that's super cool. And then on top of that, the other thing we got is Future League. So Future League for this month is that reverse art Chasmodon, which looks super cool. So how do you enter that? You join our Discord, you join the conversation on the Future League channel, you request from either me or AG Miller or from Taz to give you the role of Future Leaguer. And then that's all you need to do. You'll get the promo, and then beginning of next month, that'll get shipped out to you. So if you have Discord, if you join us there, make sure you are joining that conversation to get that reverse art Chasmodon. I'm only printing off 20 of these, so these will go to the first 20 Future Leaguers that participate. So make sure you join in for that. All right. As always, like I say, you join us on Discord, continue the conversation there. If you have any questions, if we did not address any of your concerns during this live stream, make sure you join us there. We are very accessible. Next Town Hall will be the review of all the Future League notes. That's happening on December 7th. So make sure you're there if there's any card in particular you want us to be talking about. And then, all right, let's jump into this week's topic. Are you ready, Lionel? Lionel, you are muted. I can't hear you at all. No? You're not muted. Yeah, I can't hear you for some reason. Let's figure out what's happening there. More Zoom stuff, I tell you. All right, try again.
How is it working now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Can everyone else hear him? Gives us a thumbs up when you can hear him. But Lionel, uh,
Yes.
talk about what does it mean, or why is it important to keep design space open, and what do we mean by this?
So, first off, what we mean by keeping design space open is um, designing in a way that doesn't kind of inhibit you in the future. So, for instance, using up naming space. If you were to use the word like jump, name a card like jump. You couldn't release something called jump in the future that does something completely different. So by creating that card now, you take up the instance of using it in the future. So every time you create, like you release a card with a specific name, then that design space is taken out. Maybe that's more specific version point to it, but yeah, it's a part of it.
Yeah. So part of that's definitely the design space when it comes to naming cards, but also talk a little bit about design space when it comes to making a card. Let's say the elemental summons, for example. Why was that an interesting factor when thinking about design space compared to um, making something like Hunting Hound? Why does that differ? What's the difference between vanillas and French vanillas?
Yeah, so with that specifically, it's if you creating if you were to use that specific instance of a creature, like the 2/2 hound, and then reusing it later is kind of pointless, I guess. I'm not really doing a very good job explaining this. Sorry, could
it,
you
it's a
elaborate with my thought process?
it's definitely a difficult topic, and part of it is the design space of being like, okay, if we're making a vanilla 2/2 hound, let's say it's a Thymos hunting hound, right? That space is always consumed now by the hunting hound. So if we want to make another
Yeah.
creature in the same space, it's going to be directly competing with the hunting hound. So what are the things we can do to make sure that two creatures in the exact same space aren't conflicting with each other? So we take hunting hound versus actually no, a better example are like the original elemental summons versus Jillian Hound versus Annual Wolf. Those are all summons with 3 health, 3 attack, and they're at 5 chi. So what are the things that we're doing? So one thing you look at is we're trying to expire the original elementals. So the air elemental, earth elemental, fire, and water. We are trying to expire those because they didn't fit the curve of what we're designing it. So now we create this Jillian Hound, which is 3 health, 3 attack, 9 aura for that summon. But then you have the annual wolf. So how are those two things different? Why aren't those eating up the same design space?
Well, one of the biggest ways that we do that is with the elemental attacks. The Ainu Wolf has the holy attack, where the other ones didn't. So we're designing similar creatures, but with different nuances. So and the holy element has a lot more presence in Vellum, which is where the Ainu Wolf is. So
Thymos.
it has a better
Thymos.
place. Pardon?
Annual wolves and Thymos.
Oh, sorry, I misspoke. Yes, thanks for correcting. Yeah, it uses that design that space in specifically Thanos for Ainu, while the other ones were in other affiliations and they serve different purposes.
Yeah. So to summarize, the whole entire point of keeping why is it important to keep design space? I guess we define what is the design space and what does it mean to consume it. Why is it important to keep it open? So you want to touch on that first?
Yeah, so it's important to keep it open so that you don't, like I said, pigeonhole yourself in the future. If you were to use up if you were to put everything into one space, you kind of force yourself to go in a different direction or in going forward. You couldn't reuse it. It's more difficult to reuse it. Yeah, that's essentially where I'm coming from that.
Yeah, and that's a big point. Is as we design, we want to make sure that we're not making too many duplicate cards. We're not making things that aren't worthwhile to get in the game.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about the Annual Wolf versus the Jillian Hound, the Jillian Hound's great for anyone who doesn't care about the holy attribute or does not have access to Thymos. And as we create more cards, will they make the Gillian Hound useless? No, you might play against someone who has a lot of prevention to elements. So the uh, Gillian Hound would be really great because you can't. It has no element associated to it.
Exactly. Yeah, and they both have very good uses individually. So.
So when it comes to keeping the design space open, what are some of the things that we've done or that we've held back to make sure we have ideas in the future? What's something that you know that we've held back that will be useful for design space in the future?
Um, Something that we've held back. I know it's been released, but the idea for Desperation was something that we had come up with before the release of Rays, and we were considering bringing that into Julara. So that was one of the things that we actually held back and we released it within Julara. So that's the first thing that comes to mind.
Yeah, that's very true. Like, Desperation was supposed to be part of Alpha and Beta, and there's some legacy cards that relate to that, like Underworld Knowledge and Infernal Lashback. These were cards that were designed to work in tandem with the Desperation. Even Fury, for example. And then they got released, and then Desperation got released later. And Desperation is a fun little design space because it allows us to do a lot of things that we just couldn't before.
As well.
And so,
Yeah, is there one that comes to your mind?
so something that a lot of the future leaguers might know is the keyword enemies and allies. You might be thinking there are certain cards in the game right now that it doesn't make sense that they harm your allies or that they can heal your enemies. So something like maybe not healing fire, but something like Breath of Jalar. You play Breath of Jalar and your opponent like decoys in or somehow slides in and gets the healing from that, and you're like, this is kind of weird. Why isn't this healing? Well, it's because the base game from Alpha and Beta was already so complex. There was so many little nuances to the game that adding the keyword allies or the keyword enemies was too difficult. And also, it was the flavor of it. When we first launched the game, we didn't know what those keywords should be. Magic uses this concept of you control the summons that the creatures you create. In Genesis, we wanted those summons to feel autonomous from you. So the keyword control, those slipped in once. And can anyone name where the keyword control is in the game? But it's one of those things that we didn't want to implement because we didn't want people to feel that they were controlling their summons, that the summons were autonomous beings from the champion. So allies and enemies, I think, is a good way to approach that. Yeah. Is there something else that's on your mind?
No, actually, that was one that I was going to bring up. So
yeah, there's another one that comes to my mind, and if you remember this, Lionel, from way back when we first started playing Origins, when Origins was the idea, not the communal board, but the two separate boards, we had the idea of alterations where they hit the table, and then multiple copies of them come out. So you create this like path or network of alterations. And now we're going to see that hopefully soon enough with the keyword replicate. And so, those are definitely some things that we held back because we wanted to make sure that there was a lot of design space in the future, that there were ideas. And then Traps was another one. Traps was an idea from a long time ago, and we just didn't feel like it fit well within the game currently. So we had to redesign it for something new.
That's a good point. I'm sure there's a lot more of them too, to be honest. And there are individual one-off parts that were maybe thought up that wouldn't work within the design space we had before. So we'll be considering those in the future.
So for the people who are watching, has anyone figured out where the keyword control has showed up in the game? I would love to know if anyone can figure that out. I would be super curious. And then, so when a good thing about this is that when we first launched the game, we had a lot of ideas. We have ideas for the next several sets. A lot of keyword and mechanics, a lot of concepts we want to explore. I've had a lot of people come up to me, and Lionel, you can talk about this. People come up to me with the idea of creating tunnels from one end of the board to another. Does that sound like a familiar idea?
Yeah, it's definitely something that's come up before. But yeah, no, because I've pitched before like networks cards and like to do that type of ability. So yeah, it's definitely come out. So,
So,
it's just,
pardon,
go
what
ahead.
were you gonna say?
No, I was just gonna say we just didn't have a place for it. It
Hmm.
didn't seem feasible before
Yeah,
this whole replicate came up, or this idea came to fruition. So
yeah.
we'll see if we put it in the future.
So, two ways that we look at keeping design space open. One of them is by holding back ideas, not trying to release everything so quickly, but releasing things in a slow manner so that we can test them out and then we can expand on them. Let's take Desperation, for example. Desperation that we see in the game currently, or even Resurrect, that's not the last we're going to see of it, is it?
No,
Yeah,
no, definitely not. We're gonna reiterate on, or if needed, we're gonna evolve them if possible, if needed.
yeah. And try to find a way to make them work a lot stronger in the current game than
Exactly.
where they were before. And then the other thing we do is permutations. We add the element types. So we have different awarenesses. So if we look at just a vanilla 4 chi, 2 health, 2 attack, summon, you have 9 different attack attributes that you can add to them. Assuming you just add one, you can add multiple. So you have, yes, Jerome, you're right. It showed up in puppet control. Uh, so you have 9 attack attributes that you can add to the card. Then you got the how many different types of awarenesses? I think there's at least 10 different awarenesses. So that's already 90 different cards you can create as just a 2 health, 2 attack summon. You change the different way it can cost, the different uh yeah, there's just so many
Yeah,
different little things you can do.
health, attack numbers,
Yeah.
and even when you could also even just do different affiliation attributes and then multiple
Yeah.
different attributes on top
Yeah.
of it. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of different
So there's so many
permutations.
different levers that we can
Yeah.
switch that keeps the design space open. Let's talk a little bit about flavor of design space. How do we? You already talked about name spacing. How
Yeah.
does how do we keep the design space fresh and original as we move forward? Like, uh, do you feel that there is enough storyline space for us to continue on, as I've been saying for years, that we can do 10 years of design? Do you think
Oh,
that's
definitely.
reasonable?
Excuse me there. Sorry.
No worries. So
But
10
yeah.
years of flavor design space. How do we do that? What is one of the ideas you have to make sure that we stay fresh when it comes to all the different design spaces?
Well, I mean, the thing with creating stories, it's just the sky's the limit. However, you just create it, it creates different avenues for how we implement like naming space or flavor text or how it interacts with the game, right?
Hmm.
Um, so I think is that that's how you were the questions you're asking, right? Or
Yeah, but also like, what are we doing? I guess what I'm trying to lead you towards is the idea of lore. How are we designing the lore in such a way that it can stay on forever?
oh, just have a continual story, like have a future plan for what the future is, and
Yeah.
not because with any story, there's always avenues that you can revisit and
Hmm.
pathways that you can go through. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's just keeping the designs, keeping the stories not cut off, or I guess really the only way you can end it is if the characters like pass away, but there's always future things go on from that. So
Yeah.
sorry, I'm not sure if I'm answering the question the way you wanted me to, but there are a lot of ways to keep that open, right?
Yeah. Okay, let's switch it a little bit. And I'm going to first throw this question out to the community before we start answering it. But um, is so I want to talk about consuming design space. I want to ask the people out there, is there anything you see as a way that any card we've designed that you think will consume a large portion of design space in the future? Are there things that block us off from designing things in the future? So I'd love to hear from the community. As for Jerome's question, do you see Genesis leaving Jalara to explore other planes? So yes, this is a big thing. Is that as we move from Jalara to different worlds as the game goes on, it's exploring different lores. Right now, we're exploring a lot of the uh, native African lore, the Egyptian lore, the Indian lore, and the Chinese lore. But as we go to a new plane, there's so much more detail. We can just say the Chinese lore. There's a lot inside the Chinese lore that we could explore and go a lot deeper into. So it's about we can go on a micro level and like really really focus on, or we can go on a much larger level where we start exploring other lores that we've never touched before. I mean, you got the Native Americans, you have you know, South African, you have Russian lore, you have European lore. There's so much space when it comes to designing that each new lore could be a new world that we go to explore. So that's a big thing. All right, Lionel, is there anything when we come to consuming design space? Give me your definition first. First, what do you think it is meant when people say, or when we talk about consuming our design space?
To me, what that means is that creating something that prevents you from creating in the future to kind of sets your path in the future.
Yeah,
So, for instance, like I was saying before, like we were mentioning before, creating the 2/2 creature in Jalara that we would we could create it later, but it would kind of be pointless because that space is already taken up.
yeah.
Um, so yeah.
So, is there any card we've made so far that has consumed some of our design space or hampered our design process in any way?
Um, the biggest thing that comes to mind is certain cards in alpha and beta because they weren't created towards the formula. So, for instance, uh, Walker, I guess, it's a very powerful 6 creature, and if we were to create another, it kind of sets the tone for how the pricing of the card should be in the future.
Yeah,
And Bullshot is another example of that.
yeah,
So Bullshot was probably a big better example because it was it does a lot for what it is, and yeah,
yeah. So there are definitely cards that are designed in such a way that uh, they are either too cheap or they are designed so poorly that it makes it that every other card we have to design roughly in the same space has to gravitate towards them. So an example of that would be making Giant Scorpion, which costs 14 aura for an amazing awareness, having to make another summon that's similar. We made the Urticating Tarantula, and it's just 2 aura less. So if you're playing in Thymos, why wouldn't you pick the Giant Scorpion? Is the Giant Scorpion strictly better? That's definitely a good point. What do you think? Do you think the Giant Scorpion is strictly better than the Tarantula if you're playing in Thymos?
if you're playing in Thymos, to me it does. It seems like it is, just for the extra couple aura. It really comes down to how you design your deck, but I would definitely run the Scorpion over the Tarantula. But the Tarantula still has its place as it can be played in the other locations.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how we kind of compensate for that. Do you agree with that, or do you think that Tarantula is better than Scorpion?
So again, it does definitely come into your deck space. When it comes to a champion like Long, where your aura is so limited and so precious, but you're still playing Summoner, so you still need to get a lot of summons out. Losing those are 2 awareness spots to keep that 2 aura can definitely be extremely valuable because your next 10, 15, like however many you play, eventually accumulates into enough that you could drop another small summon like a Draconius Naga or a Gilded Stag. If you can save up enough ore to drop a spare Gilded Stag in the game, that could be enough for him to really make a difference.
Yeah.
But when it comes to a champion like Idris doesn't matter so much on the aura. So paying the extra 2 to have those extra 2 awareness spots is definitely worth it.
Yeah, and it also comes down to how you strategically play it too. So, but that's a very good point with the long sword.
Yeah. And Steven actually answers the one card that I was hoping you would bring up, which is Necrolich. So on one side of cards, it's cards that we designed that are too powerful, and now a lot of other cards have to gravitate towards there, which can definitely bring in power creep as the game grows. The other side of cards are cards that we always have to keep our mind on when it comes to designing future cards. So Necrolich being an example of that. You want to talk about that, Lionel? Talk about why Necrolich is frustrating for us as designers.
Yeah. Well, I mean, first off, we already mentioned that. Well, in previous streams, we mentioned that we never wanted to have cards bring cards from your memories bring back. So Necrolich is frustrating because it does that in the first place. Also, it kind of messes around with the costs because some creatures that Necrolich could bring back at the 5G or lower slot could be more like the aura cost, the cost of it. Like you're getting a lot for it. So it really we have to design with that in mind, and we could not creating something like that in the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's very true. The other side to it is also every time we have to design a 5G summon, we're always going to have to think, what does this mean when it gets resurrected by Necrolich? Is it worth it? Imagine if Death Eater, for example, was at 5G instead of 6G. Well, then it could come in, kill summon, and then it dies, and then you just Necrolich it back. And from that one summon, you've now killed off 2 summons. You get a lot of value out of it, to it. So any summons with the enter the arena effect now have to be considered when it comes to Necrolich. And it also has to be thought about what will happen with the Necrolich Formosan Gorilla deck when those Axon Thymos champions are coming out. So that's definitely a big card. Another one is Ascendant Teachings, right? So how does that play into things? Because now you can go search your deck for other things. So basically, there's these cards of open cards that end up causing a lot of problem. Which one, outside of Necrolich, what do you think is the next biggest pain point as an open card? Is there another open card that comes to your mind that can cause a lot of problems?
Well, the any of the fetch cards like Ascendant Teaching or Demon Scrolls are definitely more open than the others. But I had one in mind.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'd probably go with those ones, honestly.
Yeah.
But or Epiphany as well has openness aspects to it as well with the draw. Because you never know what it comes in, what it would draw into. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And for people who are wondering, yeah, we do actually have a document where we keep track of all the cards and their openness levels. And we do go back to them to think about these cards and how do they implement into design. So that's definitely a thing. All right, that's everything I have lined up for this week's topic. Any last thoughts about design space on your end? What is some advice you would give to someone who's designing a game and thinking about design space?
Just be very mindful about what you're doing and what it means to whatever you're designing it, to your game or your IP or whatever it is. Make sure that you're specifically designing with the future in mind, as well as where you want them to be in the ways of your IP. So, yeah, just be very mindful.
Perfect. All right. Thank you, everyone who's joined. I just have some last announcements. Our 2020 player survey is out. Make sure you go and fill that out if you haven't yet for a chance to win a free Raise booster box. We've got quite a few people who filled it out already, so I'm really excited. Thank you to everyone who has. And if you haven't yet, please make sure you go check it out on our website or message me directly and I'll get you the link to that survey. It should only take a few minutes to fill out, and it's very, very useful for us. On the side here, you'll see that all the information for the 3-year anniversary is up. Let me just blow that up a little bit. So the package is still available. We have 20 of these left with the poker chip, the full art borderless alpha champions. They look really awesome, and then a bunch of foil cards, which really round out this package, make it super worth it. If you're interested in that, that's available on our website. And then on the 21st, which is coming up pretty soon, from 3 to 5, I'm going to be doing an AMA. Feel free to come in, ask any questions, and hopefully we won't have this echo and feedback stuff going on. And then on the 23rd, we got some reveals that's going to be happening. So be excited for that. And I forgot about the auction. The auction is happening on the 21st to 23rd. Anyone who's interested in that, I've already sent out invites. you can now view all 18 items that are in there. There's one more item that I need to put in that I haven't had the chance to put in yet. So all of that's there. Go to the genesisbattlechampions.com/3 year for all that information. And then my last note, there's Rochester CCG has got all their products up on the website. If you're looking for stuff, if you're living in the States and you're looking for Genesis product, you now have two places to go for that. So Rochester CCG and the other place being Dragon's Den in Ohio. So there's two stores. We've got other stores that are lining up. They're just waiting to make some final decisions because of COVID. TCG University is doing their 24-hour Extra Life charity thing on November 20th. There's going to be some cool Genesis product that's going to be given away in a raffle. And also, Rochester CCG will be putting out a cool announcement of some stuff that they're going to be doing in participation with that event. So, if you love gaming, if you love seeing that online gaming space, make sure you join TCG University on November 20th for that. As always, my COVID reminders, the world is changing. A lot of things in the States are changing. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what, like when it comes to wearing masks in stores, if the government is asking you to do this and it's a necessity for you to enter the store, please be polite. Please be safe with the people around you and just follow procedures. If you're not able to for one reason or another, contact the stores. I'm sure so many of the stores have online delivery and curbside pickup. So if there's any opportunity for you to do that, let me work with the stores. Work with the stores and adhere to the guidelines of your area. The town hall again happening December 7th. If you're part of Future League and you want to be part of the conversation, that's all there. And then Tabletop Simulator, I'm actually going to be finding some time to come online tonight to play some games. So if anyone's available to play, and on top of that, we will live stream again using this, so you can come and find us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch to see some live stream of some games being played. I may actually start that a little bit early just to show some of my deck building process and give feedback on some of the decks I'm building. And I think that's everything for now. If you're interested, if you have a topic that you want us to cover in the live stream, let me know and we'll try to incorporate that. Or if you want to come and lead the live stream and do some interviews, well, you're welcome to join us. Just message me. And again, join us on Discord if you want to continue this conversation. Thank you everyone for joining, and we will see you next time. Bye.